Welcome to Life List, a birding podcast. Hey, folks, and welcome to another episode of Life List podcast. We are back with our roundtable of co-hosts. I'm Molly Brown, here with George Armistead and Alvaro Jaramillo. Guys, we are recording back to back, so what's up? What's changed in the past hour since we first started our last episode recording?
I'm more caffeinated. I'm more caffeinated now.
Yeah, I made more tea in between episodes.
I've got my yerba mate going here.
I saw that. You got your bombilla and your whole yerba mate thing's happening.
And this is after coffee, so later on.
Wow, you got both the caffeine and the matein.
That's right, Georgine.
Well, a lot just changed over here. First off, right before I came home and got on our last recording, I was at the Avian Conservation Center doing every Tuesday I do my volunteer work there, and then I ran down to this WMA, that wildlife management area. I realize that's different in different states, but that's sort of the state DNR game lands, and picked up a trail camera that's been out for 6 weeks or so, and I forgot there was a stream crossing, so I ran through it. My feet are really muddy. I've just been sitting here. I didn't really have time to wash off. My shoes are soaked. I didn't have my tall boots or anything. So I can smell the mud. I'm glad you guys can't smell it. It's not the most pleasant creek I just crossed.
Sounds pretty rank.
It kind of was.
That's total field, like you're in the field even when you're not in the field. It's like you're hard.
Yeah, I live in a field now.
And don't you have a wasp problem? Is there as well? So
okay.
You got a muddy waspy.
Happened.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It started raining. It's raining hard. And now it's 65 and raining here. So I'm totally going to go out and go in the woods tonight and look for salamanders. It is one of those nights. Everything feels really good right now. So no point in getting clean because I'm just going to go get filthy in the woods. But yeah, so I don't know, this wasp problem that I talked about in the cabin, the paper wasps that are around are still persisting. I haven't called an exterminator. They just kind of come and go. We've been in the cabin for a month-ish now. Yeah, a month. None of us have gotten stung. Me, Jimmy, the dogs. We're doing this weird sort of coexisting with these wasps. I was just telling George in between, my dog, Ledoux, is curled up on the sofa, asleep, and there's just a wasp just sitting on top of his head, which they don't usually sit in our lap, but he kind of looked at it and he just doesn't care. It's I figured out, if I just crack windows, they leave and they're gone. They all just come out of the rafters.
Molly, we have the same issue at my parents' farmhouse.
Really?
And it's always like this time of year. I don't know how it is, but they come through when it's starting to warm up in the spring. They get active, and I don't know where they come from, but they're in the house, and then they're really sluggish inside the house.
Yep. They're very calm.
Which has both benefits and drawbacks, but. They don't necessarily get out of your way if you don't see them, and then they can be easy to step on. But or a dog can put their nose right into it, which is another.
Yeah, the dogs just don't care. And both the dogs will kind of chase flies and such, but
our dog tries to eat them. He if they're flying around him, he's like, he's like, and I'm like, you don't want to do that. Luckily, he's missed every time. But I saw him.
Yeah,
I
really need to.
Killer.
I need to knock on wood, because if a dog starts yelping bloody murder, you'll know it finally happened.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There are two different sizes of them. There are little smaller ones that have really bright stripes, and then there are bigger ones where the stripes aren't very well defined. I've been taking macro shots of them. So they're just hanging out.
Queen and workers, do you think they're overwintering not in?
I think so.
In a nest, so they're maybe just overwintering in a little crevice, and then they come out and then later build the nest?
I think that's exactly what's happening. I think some of them are overwintering between our metal roof and our rafters. So this is a solid pine cabin that we had. This is the tiny home. It's big by tiny home standards, but like this 400-foot thing that came in. It's got the trailer built into it. I have talked about this on the podcast, right? Like this was dropped off in August, but we just finally were able to move in the end of February when we got home from Colombia. So there for all of the winter until that point, and in the fall it sat here, and we sealed it and stained it and such, and did treat it with a bug repellent, but I'm imagining that was plenty of opportunity for things to get in without us really being able to keep an eye on it.
Yet so if it was there from January, could it be that the wasps came with like from elsewhere, wherever the house
right, like the larvae were in there or something, or the
or the adult overwintering?
I would say no. This place where we got it from, in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, Lancaster Log Cabins, they actually assemble these cabins in 5 days. When we went and looked at the models, we toured their facilities too. It's just this huge warehouse, and they have the conveyor is the trailer. So it was like brought in on this flatbed trailer. It's 12 feet wide, and then the wheels were taken off, and now we've got kind of foundation built around it. But they just roll the trailers through, and they assemble them really quickly and immediately deliver them. So for that reason alone, I know that this was not in this configuration for very long before it was delivered, as in like a day. So
interesting.
Yeah.
Your huge tiny home.
Yeah. Doesn't it look expansive? Yeah. I think the ceilings are 14 feet high.
It's the greater Pee-wee of cabins.
Yeah, it's the McMansion of tiny homes.
Yeah. But we've got a full kitchen. We've got full size appliances. We have a king size bed. It's not that tiny. I'm really happy with it, but it's been fun to get settled in with that. We have things kind of halfway done, and we're still like building shelves and organizing and all of that, but living well over here. Anyway, that's what I've been up to while we were also recording this podcast. Hey, I have a question for both of you. I meant to ask this in previous episodes.
Not how to pronounce something. Yeah.
No, I am not going anywhere near that.
Not about the habits of Gunlock's hawk, I hope.
Oh my God. Yeah. Pronunciation of Parula, Perula, Perula.
All right. I'm going back to when I was in Colombia, actually, on one of the field trips that I attended during the Colombia Bird Fair. We were at Rio Bravo. It's a pretty well-known location that's kind of between Manizales and Cali. And we were walking down. You kind of started and were dropped off from your bus at the top of this great big, beautiful ravine, like picturesque Andes Mountains, steep hillsides covered in vegetations. And you just spent your couple hours wandering down. Basically ran like a field trip for a birding festival in the U.S. So as we were going down this steep hillside and looking across from the other, you could see a spot where there had been a pretty recent landslide. And at one point, as our group of 20 or so was kind of birding around, at first we thought there was a big semi-truck that was coming up the road. And, it was kind of rumbling. And then, I don't know, it kind of felt not like that. And everybody was kind of like looking confused and looking at each other. And we realized that landslide on the other side of the ravine was starting up again. And was starting to split or to shift down. So there was a small landslide that happened, and you could actually see it. It was in a spot where it had already occurred. It was really cool. It was kind of nerve-wracking, and it was one of those things where I was just watching it in awe, and then I was like, wait a second. We're nearly to the bottom of this hillside. Like, what do we need to be doing right now? How do we react if this like continues to escalate? And it didn't, but it was just one of those moments of like thinking through what you do in that situation, which would have been, I don't know. I don't know how that would have played out. So my question to you all is, have you ever experienced on a birding tour or otherwise any sort of natural disaster or something that happened really quickly like that?
I have been birding in the wind, like real strong wind around here, and where I thought, I'm not sure we should go into the woods because it's just, too windy and just like, okay, let's get out of here. And right after I did that, a huge branch fell, like huge, that could have killed you.
Oh, wow.
Branch. And it was like, whoa, it wasn't. So it confirmed it was kind of obvious. It was really windy. But, you can be in really windy places and nothing ever happens.
This is a real Nostradamus kind of prediction, wasn't it?
But this was the real deal. Like it was.
You licked your finger and stuck it up in the air and you thought, right. Time to go.
Time to go.
Yep, windy.
Yeah. No, I think that stands out. Because, because you often go, oh, better not go in there and nothing ever happens. But this time something did happen, So.
Yeah. You were with a group?
Confirmation. No, just birding. It was a couple of us, just kind of birding out and about around here. But I've had earthquakes, but that was kind of like, oh yeah, nothing.
Yeah, I've been in like little kind of tremors that were like, maybe 3.5 Richter scale or something like that. Nothing big. And I do remember being in Colombia once and our car like pulled up. It was not a tour. It was like just a few of us birding and our car like pulled up to a line of cars that kind of went around a bend. And I was like, and everyone's like, yeah, it's landslide. But we talked to everyone. They're like, yeah, we think it'll be clear, like in 45 minutes or something. And so there was like a little cafe, and we sat there and hung out and had like some, some agua panela or something, and some arepas. I don't know. And then like it cleared and opened, and we went, and we realized that we were like the 5th car back from this landslide. Like there was like 3 or 4. Yeah. So like this little line of cars literally went just around the bend to where this landslide was. And there were some very large rocks. And we were like, wow, we actually probably were only a little bit behind that, by minutes probably. And that was that was kind of sobering. But yeah, other disasters, natural disasters, not so much. Thankfully. And I was on one of those cruises, a Southern Ocean cruise, where we hit the edge of a low, where the center of that low was like lower than Hurricane Katrina. It was a very large storm. We were at the edge of it, but it was like, I want to say it was like Beaufort 10 or something on the, it was like 10 on the Beaufort scale in terms of sea conditions. It might have, I think some people were saying it might have been 11, which is like, I think you're getting into like 40, 50 foot waves at that point.
That's Spinal Tap levels there. Going to
11. Yeah, this one goes to 11. Yeah. But that was like, I wasn't scared, but it was like people were definitely sick and confined to their cabins and stuff. So that was a little rough.
Colombia again, I was getting dropped off at the airport after one of the times that I was, doing work with John Myers and stuff about, the Colombia bird tour program, the Aviturismo.
The one you wrote the guide curriculum for. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm trying to remember one of the northern cities, it wasn't Santa Marta, but it started raining and then raining. And we're trying to get to the airport, and it's raining so much the streets start flooding. Junk starting like to flow down the streets, and then he's in a van. The driver. He's like, okay, well, oh gosh, this street's blocked, and we'll go around over to this other place, and then we're going to go over here, and just everything becomes a river like in 20 minutes. And I'm like, how am I going to get to my flight? And eventually they find, they ask somebody, and then they're like, go down this street, and there's like an overpass, and he's just going to have to walk over with his luggage because there's going to be nothing that's, that you can drive through, and I did that, grabbed the bags and went over and got to my flight. But the idea that you can go from basically normal to suddenly like everybody's like
chaos.
Scrambling And cars are starting to get moved, from their parking positions, because of the water. To me, it was like, wow, crazy, 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 crazy. And it wasn't really dangerous, but the concept of how quickly things can, imagine if you've been in a different situation somewhere else and you're
I missed those Yellowstone floods by less than 24 hours a couple years ago.
Oh yeah.
That was like, I couldn't believe it. I was like, I was just there, like, know, and it went crazy, changed a lot.
There've been multiple fire type situations where I've been kind of almost, not quite, or just after or just before. And I always, you do fear that somewhat, like if you're in an area where it could, suddenly flare up. We had a fire in Spain once, so you could see it in the distance, forest fire, and it got bigger and bigger. And we're like, so, do we just watch this? Like, do we monitor the radio? What do we do? The TV or whatever. And sure enough, it was contained. But we are, although we're sort of fearful creatures as humans, when something real happens, we often aren't prepared. We're like, oh, this can't get that bad, can it? Like
right. The disbelief can be a problem sometimes.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's when I was watching that landslide, I recorded a few seconds of it on my phone. I'll see if they're very dramatic. Maybe we'll put it on the social media for the podcast. But then I was like, am I the idiot that's standing here with my phone watching this unfold?
You're going to be the one
right.
on TV.
You're like, there's going to be somebody behind you filming you as like, they're like, look at that jackass. Yeah.
Or just turn around, everybody's gone.
Everybody's gone. He was like, hey, do you guys see the cock of the rock? Ah!
We actually had just seen a cock of the rock. That's funny. Yeah. Well, it's had me thinking for a while after.
This is not a nice thing to talk about because I always kind of fear it. But have you guys ever been in extreme turbulence or really bad turbulence in a plane where you're like, oh my God, the wings are going to fall off this thing, or just regular turbulence? Because extreme is pretty rare, right? Like even pilots don't.
Yeah, I have not experienced that. I've seen videos of it enough that I'm like, there are times when I'm like, I am definitely going to keep my seatbelt on. Like, this doesn't seem bad now, but, where you see people all of a sudden, hit the ceiling when they were just all seated at once. And you're like, Jesus.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember. There was one time when it was bad enough that, like, people were screaming on the plane.
Yeesh.
That was one of the earlier times that I flew. I don't remember feeling particularly scared that we were not going to make it through it, but other people apparently did.
Yeah.
No, nothing like what George just described, though.
I was in Argentina. I was coming back from the first time I did the Antarctic trip way back, 15 plus years ago. And I remember we were flying towards Buenos Aires from Ushuaia, and then they diverted to Bahia Blanca, and they said, weather's just too bad in Buenos Aires to land, so we're going to hang out here for an hour or two and wait for things to clear up. And sure enough, we waited, take off again, and in theory had cleared up. I mean, but it was really bad. Like, we were flying through thunderstorms essentially, or around them, or kind of through the tops of them. And there were times when the plane would just like fall, and everybody go like, "Wah!" And then it'd be like kind of, shaking around all over the place. And it was, I remember I was with the group and I was just trying to, like, I was making jokes and everything, trying to keep people from like going a little too down the rabbit hole of despair, because you can't do anything. Right. And, but once we got down, I remember just like sweating bullets, going like, what the hell was that? Like I was just I was trying to keep others calm. And in that work I was trying to do, I kept from thinking about it myself. But once I was down, I was like, oh my God, that was harsh.
Intense.
Yeah.
And it's
like
never happened
delayed
again.
Adrenaline.
Yeah. And that was, well over a decade ago. So it's pretty rare. It's a lot of
That was a hell of a trip for you between that and the Katabatic winds out on South Georgia and getting stuck out there. You really had yourself. Didn't you break your wrist or something?
Yeah.
Or like,
well, yeah, I dislocated my shoulder. Yeah.
Really packed a lot in there.
I know that was
fun tour.
Fun tour.
Oh my gosh,
it's never happened again. All of that.
Wow.
You mentioned Bahia Blanca. Whenever I think of that, I'm like, that's where Manu Ginobili is from, like the awesome basketball player who was on the Spurs championship team all those years. And I went there once birding, actually, to see all Rog's gulls and other stuff. Because I think
tell me you saw Pampas Meadowlark.
Oh, we did see Pampas Meadowlark. I
looked
Pampas
for that once when I was in Bahia Blanca, and I did not see it. It was so rainy. I may have seen it, and I couldn't tell because everything was so wet.
Yeah, we got a hot tip on those. Actually, I think it was from a friend of yours. I'm struggling to remember the name.
They're not rare there.
Yeah. Right, you just got to find them, and they're it seems like they kind of shift around a little bit depending on if the grasslands are right. And I'm talking to the world expert on icterids here, so probably he knows better than I do. But yeah, the other thing I remember there is that we saw a musarana, which I mentioned. Actually, it's the only place I've ever seen a musarana, which is that it's a really widespread neotropical snake, and actually gets all the way down to central Argentina. So
musarana,
yeah,
yeah. I looked. Did I mention that I remember I think I did a setup that when I was going to go to Uruguay, I was going to look again for Pampas Meadowlarks.
Yes.
And the weather was foul, so I couldn't actually go look for them. So this is now officially the bird I've looked for.
It's a jinx.
Yeah, 5 times in my life, and I've never seen it.
Nemesis bird, meadowlark. Jinx bird.
Yeah. Yeah. Pompous meadowlarks, when I was starting to call them.
Yeah, it's really pompous.
Thinks so highly of itself.
Won't present itself for you.
And it just looks like all the rest of the southern bell. Like it's not like it's some really cool one with like huge.
Oh, those dark underwing coverts are like nothing I've ever seen before.
I know. It's sort of, but there's something about them. It's the Holy Grail, the Pampas Meadowlark.
It's a good one to see.
Well, hey, I know this news has already hit Facebook and we're a little delayed in talking about it on the podcast. But, George, we need to do the official Life List announcement. And congratulations that you were elected to the board of directors for the American Birding Association.
Oh, thanks.
Woo-hoo.
Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah.
Nobody sees all the confetti that we put in his house. Down right now. It's
I am excited about it.
Band's coming a little later to serenade you.
I appreciate the well wishes. Really, I just hope that I can help because I think, as we all know, the ABA has had some ups and downs over the years. I always think of it as kind of like the nation's bird club, and I think they've got a good team now with Wayne Klockner as the president. Got a lot of really good experience and is assembling a good team, and some veteran people on board there as well who really, I think, have the right ideas. And the new board chair, Chris Sloan, is a friend and an avid seabirder and birding. He travels for birding all over the place. So I think, and Carl Bendorf, who a lot of folks will know is from Colorado Birding Adventures, is working as well. So I think ABA is well positioned now to try to move in sort of a new direction that I think that I hope dedicated birders will find more good content there. The podcast has been really strong for a really long time, and I think Nate Swick and Greg Neese and our friends have at ABA have been doing a great job for a long time, and the magazine is good as well. So I'm excited to see what Wayne and what Chris are working to dial up, and I'm excited to help out however I can. And certainly, I think now is a good time for folks to think about what they might like to see from the ABA, and to reach out and let us all know. Because, I think there is I think there's a void that I think the ABA, and a role that the ABA can fill, in terms of kind of being a place to celebrate the culture of birding and providing material for dedicated birders. So towards that end, I hope folks will join and find ways to offer ideas about how the organization can move forward. So it should be cool. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, definitely. So I think you'd mentioned that your first full board meeting's in a few weeks or months out, but are there board committees? Do you kind of focus on specific areas within that, or do you know how that structure works yet?
This is all so new to me still. I think there are some, and there are sort of subcommittees, and I'm still learning about that, and getting up to speed. So yeah, I don't have much to offer on that front right now. While I worked at ABA for 5 years as their events manager until about 2016, I think it was. Yeah, a lot is similar from during my time there, but a lot has changed as well. So much has changed, really. There are aspects of the organization I feel like I know pretty well, and others where I'm still getting up to speed.
One of the things that is old school that they used to do at the ABA that was actually pretty cool, I thought, were the annual conventions. And I wonder if, like, in the future there's a role of something kind of similar to that. Everybody's got to, like, think about these bird festivals, for example. Like, they kind of were later, like the ABA conventions were earlier than any bird festival.
They really were kind of the model. They were kind of the model off of which most bird festivals are now, have taken off.
And because the ABA originally was so sort of list oriented, they would go. So they'd say, okay, let's do it in North Dakota, and we'll go and see all those central birds that you can't, if you don't live there, you can kind of go and see them with us, And that was an interesting kind of deal to sort of show people, like, move the festival around in a sense that, so that different folks could sort of experience different parts of the continent. And it's hard, right, to put something like that together, especially in today's world, and all that. It's, flying in, all that. But it'd be interesting to do that again. I thought that was like a real community building kind of thing that worked well at the time. And I guess it was, I'm not sure why it ended. Probably one of those economic downturns or something that happened back in the day.
I think part of the problem was because I came on the team there, like, as those were kind of getting phased out, those ABA conventions. And part of the issue was that there were so many birding festivals everywhere that it was hard to then have, like, it used to be that the kind of event of the year, like the in-person event that you really wanted to be at as a birder, would be the ABA convention. And, there was people that prided themselves at having been at every one for 20 odd years. And there were volunteers, that were a part of those for decades. And like Tyler Bell and Jane Kostenko, they were like huge for those. So, but birding evolved and events evolved, and I don't think there's too much to regret or look back on. It was just, I think the ABA was filling a void then that didn't exist, and provided sort of a jumping off point for a lot of these festivals to be like, hey, we can do this right here, and have a pretty good time.
maybe that's actually the success in a sense, right? To have all these festivals that kind of grew out of this concept is alone something that you could say, hey, ABA started all this, and now things are different now, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of interesting. I have always thought that there's a role for the ABA to be much more actively like working on birder issues, like access.
Advocacy.
Yeah, advocacy, like access to places. Like, wouldn't you think it'd be amazing? And I know you're on board with this, to have like an ABA card and allows you to get into like garbage dumps. Look at goals,
I'm on board with that. Yeah. Yeah.
If it could be done.
Yeah. Yeah. Wastewater treatment plants and garbage dumps, that's
yeah,
that would be pretty amazing. Yeah.
I know.
That's your platform.
Yeah. It's a jargon platform.
Yeah. That's, it's my
dumps
people.
And sewage, folks. Dumps and sewage.
Refuse and waste. Get your refuse and waste right here. Yeah. Yeah.
So
that's funny.
Here's like Molly, like you're of a younger generation. What do you think? Like, how? I mean, your view of the ABA is probably different than ours, because we have a lot of, we grew up with this thing. It was the only thing back in the day, so we have a lot of goodwill towards it. But what do you think younger people would want to see out of an organization like the ABA? In general terms,
Yeah, and to piggyback a little bit off what you're saying now, sorry, Molly, is just that for more than a decade, like Birding Magazine and North American Birds, that was where birding news was, like pre-internet for, and so, yeah, like that's the stuff I always said I was weaned on those magazines. Like I learned so much from those publications. So,
yeah, well, I am from a younger generation. I'm 30, but I also really just got connected to the birding community at large when I was in college. So I missed a lot of the things that a lot of my peers my age in birding had, like the young birder camps and then different forums and things that I think in a lot of times were spearheaded by the ABA, or the ABA really did a lot to encourage, where birders met each other and built that community. So for just for sake of missing that, I have connected with birders mostly through a combination of social media and in-person events. So ABA hasn't fostered that community for me in the same way. It just wasn't my source for it. I'm forgetting the original question now.
Yeah, like what do you think a younger generation that hasn't had the sort of connection to this organization would want from it? Like what would be like, like, that'd be cool, or because, George is there, he can make things happen.
That's right.
Single-handedly change the world.
I'm sure that's what some people are terrified of, is they think I have that influence.
Well, personally, advocacy is exactly where I think as well. And both on sort of the creating equitable resources to birders in local communities, which I think is really cool. And I also think about it from a policy side, and then being a cohesive voice for the birding community that carries into other facets of conservation and biology and those types of things. I know that ABA is not a big organization, but even from an outside perspective, it sounds like the authoritative organization for birding in the United States. And
that's a key point, actually, Molly, that you make there, is that the name makes it sound bigger than it is, really, in some ways. And like the membership is much, much more limited than, say, National Audubon or even the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. If you look at the memberships for those organizations, they are much, much bigger. So it's at times, I think that can be a blessing or a curse, right? It can be that then within the ABA, members actually have more say and more influence than they might in some of these other larger organizations. The other part of it, though, I think, is that the name conveys more influence than they might be able to actually control at times. And so the expectations can be outsized at times, I think, and so at any rate, those are a couple things to keep in mind. I would say to folks like that, if you want to get involved and become a member, you can have an impact, which might be tougher in some other places, but also you have to kind of temper your expectations because the resources are not the same as some other organizations.
Mm-hmm.
I do think it's interesting to me that, like, you mentioned the ABA podcast, and Nate has he's invited people to talk who would not necessarily have gotten that kind of airplay in the past from multiple different, spheres of the birding community. And I think he's been very good at often not having sort of the well-known experts on, and having other people who have really good points of view and expertise that you might have not heard of before. And I think that's an example I see of one person within the ABA that almost sort of said, okay, I've got this podcast. Here's I'm going to do this with it. And it's been really successful at opening things up for others. And if you're a birder, you might go, hey, maybe I can go and do this at the ABA, or have them help them do this or do that. Or maybe I want to partake in some way that allows me to have an influence. I think you're right. You can't go do that in Audubon. You can't go do that at, some of the other bigger organizations. It's just, there's too much of a structure well, not that there isn't structure in ABA, but it's smaller, right?
Yeah. Well, the podcast is a really good example of the ABA being super accessible to anybody who has any sort of remote interest in birding and doesn't really know where to start. I mean, it's now a very visible thing for anybody who listens to podcasts. I check this for Lifelist. If you search birding, we're up there, but ABA is first.
Yeah, I sort of see them as like the granddaddy of birding podcasts.
It's what Apple Podcast thinks, that's for sure.
Yeah,
but yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're extremely established as a podcast and continues to be. But this is one of those things for me where I was really into birds my whole life. Like my 4-H project when I was 9 years old, my mom still has it. And that's how I know this, because I kind of forget that I did it. But it was about birds. I've always had that interest, but didn't connect to the birding community at large until I happened to literally stumble into a magazine about birds office.
We're going to contact your mom and have her send us images of this project, and we're going to publish it.
I wasn't that interested until Molly seemed to object so much. Now I'm like, all right, yeah, we do need to do that. Yeah.
I don't know. Right outside our house, I had bird feeders. I had names for all the birds. Yeah, I was just a farm kid running around in the woods, and it was about backyard birds and the types of seed that they ate actually from the feeder. Oh, wow. I don't think it was anything too profound, but my point is, I thought birds were cool. I have some record of it. But yeah, I run into people just around here birding that I don't know how they got into birding. They just like birds. The birding culture is shifting so dramatically, and there's so many types of people who are starting to enjoy birds in all these different ways. And it also always fascinates me, with myself as an example of this as well, that so many people learn about the art of birding and how to be a birder, how to study birds, how to observe birds, how to identify birds in all these isolated little bubbles everywhere, which I think is really, really cool. It creates a lot of different, just approaches to birding as a whole. And then there's
presents challenges too for membership organizations. It's like,
I mean, how many times have you heard people say man, I wish I would have had a birding mentor, and I wish I would have known about this earlier. So I'm not suggesting direct solutions to this, but I'm saying that that's a void that would be really cool if it were filled.
Yeah.
Those are my thoughts there.
I was just thinking about, I gave this talk the other day in Santiago about sort of birding and to crowd of mostly young people. And I was trying to explain to them what bird watching was like 20, 30 years ago in South America and how different it is now. And one of the things that really, I think, resonated with a lot of people is how the democracy of information, like the availability and that everybody has access to information today that wasn't the case in the past, where truly you had people that maintained all the info and sort of their knowledge base was sort of their eminence and their sort of, you could almost call it power in the local bird watching or ornithology scene. And now it's just all open. And I think that is a really important thing for any birding organization to have in mind, is how to make things accessible in all ways, right? So this is just about information, content, and flow and info, which is now much more open because of eBird and so forth. But everything to be, available so that anybody who's in any corner of the world can go, oh, I want to learn about this and pick it up. So that's what I was just sort of flowing through my brain about openness, and it's a good thing for an organization to try to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would encourage folks, I know we've got to scoot here fairly soon, but to check out ABA.org. Somehow ABA got ABA.org, not the American Bar Association, not some other ABA, but the American
Banking Association too.
Yeah, there's quite a few. Nate references them a fair amount on the podcast, but if you go to their site, you'll see a birding resources tab that's got all sorts of stuff that is worth checking out. It's got birding and club organizations that can help you find stuff in your area. It's got ABA birding trails. It's got information on ABA big years, ABA big days, the checklist committee, introduced species, birding news. There's an ABA media area, which has the rare bird alert, which is worth checking for. I think it's got, if I'm reading this right, it's got maybe your white-tailed eagle that was up there in your area recently. It's got the photo quiz. They have the March photo quiz up right now, which has some calidrus sandpipers. So there's a lot of resources and programs as well. The Young Birder program, I think, is one of ABA's strongest things that they do. They've got a Songbird coffee that is a certified bird-friendly coffee that you can get. So there's a lot of stuff going on. Birders Exchange also, which gets optics and resources into the hands of NGOs and nonprofits doing conservation and research work in the U.S., Canada, Latin America, the Caribbean. So they really do a lot of good stuff on a really limited budget, and they could use, if you're listening, they could use you as a member and a voice. So think about that. Yeah, anyway, check them out.
Well, the more we talk about this, the more I think of that I want to say. So, George, I'm excited to hear your updates as you settle in your position, and that we keep having this conversation on the podcast. It's great.
Yeah, and I'm mostly there in a supportive role, really. So that's all. But
we expect you to meet all our demands.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's what, eight or nine other directors, and I'll be one of them. And I'm thankful to be joining a team, and I know that I think there'll be some other team members down the line that'll be good coming in the next year or so as well. So
I know, but your scrap and sewage platform, that's huge.
Get the huge landfills and wastewater treatments, baby.
Yeah,
that's this is where one-stop shopping.
Yeah. Can you imagine how many people you'd make happy if you could, have access to all these landfills everywhere and sewage treatment plants, all over the ABA area, and
I always say no birding tour is complete until you've visited either a landfill or a wastewater treatment plant. Like it's almost like something you got to check off to have had a proper birding tour experience. I think few exceptions to that. Few exceptions.
Yeah, I got to think about that.
Yeah, some places where you just can't find one.
Yeah, well, in the U.S., it's increasingly hard to get access, as we oft discuss. So.
Yeah.
We've got a scoot, as we say. This episode is going to drop right in the beginning of April. So, George, tours, things you have coming up, anything that you want to share?
Yeah. we have a Puerto Rico tour that we are about to announce. By the time this airs in April, probably that will be up. Puerto Rico with Josh Coville and Jason Hall, and so that should be going. Also, there is this Backroads Montana trip that Josh is doing into the Rockies of Montana, so definitely worth checking that out. I am excited. I think I'm going to have a Southern India route, hopefully up, maybe not quite in mid-April. I'm hoping to have it up, that I'm going to be doing through the Ghats of Southern India. So I'm pretty excited about that. It'll involve some mammals, but really it's mostly going for the endemic birds of Southern India, that's really the hot zone of Southern Asia for endemics, is that zone in Southern India where the Ghats, the mountains are, and the Deccan Plateau. So excited about that. That's about all I can think of for now. Although, Molly, you and I have been talking about your West Virginia birding trip that we're putting together at Hillstar as well. That's going to be awesome.
Yep. I'm really, really excited about that. By the way, Josh's Backroads series in Montana is my favorite tour title of all the Hillstar tours. I think that's so cool. Clearly, I love exploring backroads. But man,
he loves it too. He's super jazzed.
Yeah, it looks awesome. But yes, maybe by April or very soon, I'll be announcing the West Virginia birding tour that I've been putting together, and I've had so much fun building this itinerary. It's mid-May 2025, all through the hills in West Virginia, around New River National Park, which is the newest national park, currently aptly named, and around Canaan National Wildlife Refuge that's there too. So we'll be doing a mix of breeding birds and some of the later migrants that are coming through. Huge warbler diversity. That'll really be a lot of the birding focus, including getting things like Swainson's warbler, golden wing warbler, kind of a mix of northern breeding species that extend just down into that part of Appalachia, and then meeting the sort of southern species that come up the eastern U.S. and into that area as well. There's a bit of a confluence there. But as I've worked on this itinerary, it has become more and more of a culinary tour as a birding tour. And that's what I'm really, really excited about. It's like a list of all. I really enjoy exploring restaurants. And
what was the one that you had? It was like pies and pints.
Pies and pints.
Yeah, I like. Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Yeah. Oh man, it's pizza pies. I know we talk about pizza on this podcast a lot, so I'll spend more time on that. I think I've actually mentioned it on the podcast before, but the original Pies and Pints location is in Fayetteville, West Virginia, where New River National Park is. Yeah, I am bringing in a couple chefs to do catered meals in our accommodations, which will be in big cabins the whole time, and they're doing Appalachian-inspired tastings that we'll have too, including all sorts of things that are either literally what was created in the mountains and served in the mountains in communities over the past few hundred years, and then some things that are sort of inspired by that. Breweries, distilleries, live music.
Wow.
More breweries. Herpetologists and botanists are coming with us on some of our walks, so we'll spend some time on orchids and do some herping. Really good shots at a lot of different mammals. It's a sweet tour. Wow. I'm building it from scratch. I don't know of any other West Virginia, like full West Virginian tours that
it's gonna be awesome.
Have happened. So I'm super excited about it. I'll be talking about it a lot on here. Yep.
I got a pizza question. Just came up as you were talking. So in Santa Cruz, I'm going to give a talk in a couple of days about South Seas, in our New Zealand and, Antarctica kind of trips. And there's this pizza place that we're going to go to have dinner at. And it said inauthentic, right? Because usually it's like authentic Chicago style pizza. There's this inauthentic Detroit style pizza. I laughed. But then I thought, is there really a Detroit style pizza, or is that just part of the joke? There's no Detroit style pizza, right?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I have like a couple of my best birding friends are Michigan birders. I will have to inquire on this.
Yeah. So my guess is it's part of the joke, but maybe I didn't want to offend anybody, and because they'll be like, "Oh, of course, the Detroit style pizza has a blah 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 blah," kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, yet another thing to report back on our birding and pizza podcast. Yeah. Alvaro, any tours or anything else that you have going on that you want to share?
Right now, Peter Burke is in Thailand. They're having a great time. And seeing all sorts of stuff, eating all sorts of things that are great. And we're hopefully going to do Thailand next year as well. And Peter will be heading in November to Bhutan. Bhutan is amazing. And I would sort of, if you want to look into that, alvarosadventures.com. And we also are going to Svalbard next year.
Oh, cool.
For this solstice. So we're going to be there 24-hour daylight on a ship looking for ivory gulls and polar bears in the Arctic of, Svalbard, the sort of, Spitsbergen as the other name for the area. So, yeah, that's three things to look forward to. Because, of course, New Zealand, subantarctic with George.
Yeah, this
New Zealand,
December.
Australian subantarctic this end of this year. So we still have spots.
Yes. Join us for that, guys. It's going to be an epic one.
Yeah. A dream trip. I might cry on that one.
A lot of threats about Alvaro crying. Yeah. Nice.
That's funny.
Also want to remind folks, newsletter, check it out. I think if you get a look at it, you'll enjoy it. So hope folks will take a look and sign up for the Lifeless newsletter.
Yep. Sounds great. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening to Lifeless. We will see you next time.
Cheers, everybody.
Bye-bye.